Just to let you know, I'm waiting for see who else comes on the line. In the meantime, uh, enjoy this particular mantra. Feel free to add your own sound to this mantra. Okay, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you, John, yeah.
All right, just to be sure, putting in my headset, so, because last time the sound was not that good, so.
It's all right.
Okay, great. It looks like it's just going to be you today, Ivan. So.
What's happened?
Oh, I think there was just some conflict with other people, so. But I record these sessions. I believe this is being recorded. I have to take a look. Let's see. Let me stop sharing for a moment. There we go. Yeah, it's being recorded. So I just wanted to double check that. So welcome. And what we're going to do today is I want to talk a little bit about mantras. So let me just share my screen again. So this is basically what we're going to be covering today is mantras. Then we're going to go into sound, and it'll be the sounds that you make. I want to kind of expand our range of sounds, different kinds of sounds, different vowel sounds, things of that sort. I also want to get a little bit into breath and movement, and then at the end, I'm going to be sharing a very specific kind of meditation that you can do, which is called Cobra Breath. I learned this many, many years ago in a very specific Tantra class, Absolute Tantra, where they teach the Cobra Breath. And there are levels to the Cobra Breath. So I'll be sharing just the first level of the Cobra Breath. But it is a powerful breath that includes breath, sound, and movement. And so it has an effect that begins to integrate energy centers and opens energy centers in the body. Okay, so I want to share a little bit about mantras. So mantras are defined as sounds that have power, essentially. And mantras have been used for centuries, millennia, and the the power is in the vowels. And what's interesting is that I spent some time with a Hawaiian shaman by the name of Ed Kaiwi, who was a kahuna. And I don't know if you're familiar with kahunas, but they're the holders of the of huna, which is kind of a tradition, practice, training. And he was a very powerful kahuna who believed that you could actually use chants, Hawaiian chants, to kill someone. He would often talk about that. He was one of these like dark kahunas, but he had a lot of power, and Hawaiian has a lot of vowels, and he was actually one of the ones that told me that the power is in the vowels. And so if you notice some of the mantras, and I don't know if you're familiar with them, but in Sanskrit, and Sanskrit is a very ancient language, that in these ancient languages that there was a certain power attributed to certain sounds. And probably one of the oldest mantras around is the mantra Om. And Om can be pronounced in several ways. Most of the time, we listen to Oms as simply Om. But there's also a way of pronouncing it that's a little different, which is Ah, going to Aw, and then ending in And if you notice when you do this, and I'd like you to follow along with me, to go ahead and do this with me, you'll notice where the sound seems to resonate in your body as it goes through the different vowel sounds as well as the ending sound. So just notice where it lands in your body. Ah. So when you did that, and I'll tell you where it landed for me, is the ah sound was in the chest. Then the O started to bring it down lower, and then it began to move when it became this oo sound down into my root and sex chakra, the lower chakras. And then as it moved into this which is kind of an N sound, but it's in the nasal cavity. And so you notice that it comes back up here, and then the resonance is all up in this area. And so you can see with that particular mantra that it goes all the way up and all the way down, and then back all the way up. And Om is supposed to be the resonant sound of the universe. So I'm not going to get into belief systems around this, but I want to share that because mantras, I believe, and they've been they've been used for centuries. That many people believe that they have a lot of power for manifesting, for creating things, and for creating internal states of being, such as peace, love, harmony, things of that sort. So I'm not going to go into any more mantras, but I think what I want to do now is explore, because you can look up mantras online. Wikipedia has their take on mantras, and there are a bunch of sites that offer mantras. What I want to do is get a little bit more fundamental, because I believe that when we begin to really connect the sounds to what we feel in our body, that has way more power. than simply using ancient mantras, which I believe they have power, but I think that we can create even more power when it's connected within us. So, sound. I want to kind of revisit the sounds and the vowel sounds and where you feel them in your body. Because once again, if we begin now with the oo sound, so begin to play with that oo sound and notice where you feel that. Because that connection should be, again, in the lower chakras. Then as you begin to move from the oo to more of an o sound, see if you can feel that resonating around your belly. Sometimes the Chinese call it the Dan Qian, which is a little bit lower. It's below your belly button. But O is that power sound, such as the word no. So that's where you feel the O sound. Again, the ah will resonate in the chest. And just check that out and see how that feels for you as you try the ah. I can definitely feel it resonating right in my chest, right around the heart center. Now, as we begin to change from ah to eh, you begin to notice it resonating more in the throat. Eh. And then as you move to an E sound, E, you're going to start feeling it more around this area, around the third eye, the eyes, the nasal passage, and then E, and then you begin to shift it into that nasal center, the and you'll begin to feel it moving up even more to the crown chakra. And so each of the sounds that I've been sharing with you resonate with one of the chakras. And so I've gone through 7 chakras. The lowest chakra is the root chakra. Second one is the sex chakra. And I could give you the Sanskrit names, but I don't find that the names that they have being particularly empowering. But we have the root chakra, sex chakra, and actually let me tell you what the chakras represent, because I think that's also important. So the root chakra is about life on the physical plane. And that usually shows up around money, because money is how we live on the physical plane. And then the sex chakra, of course, is around pleasure, and in particular, sexual pleasure, but also around sexual power, because sex has the power to create babies, but it also has the power to manifest and make changes and create things in a reality. Then the next center, the next chakra is the power center. And this is where we have the power to create things in our lives. Then the heart center, which is about love. The throat chakra, which is about communication. And then the third eye, which is about vision, receiving visions. It can be clairvoyance, it can be clairaudience, it can be any number of things, but this whole area around here is about receiving. And then finally, the crown chakra, which is about connecting to source, to the all that is, to heaven, to whatever your relationship is to a power greater than yourself. So those are the chakras, and sound will connect to each of the chakras, and so you can play around with that. Now, the other thing I want to say about sound is that there are different types of sounds. So there are sounds that are not vocalized, and when I say not vocalized, that it's not using your vocal cords. So we have, and I believe I mentioned this in the last session that I did, but I want to go over it again, which is that we have sounds that are not vocalized, but you can hear. And I want you to just try working with the sound that is not vocalized, but you can still hear. So these are sounds, and this is called Ujjayi breath in yoga, which is part of the pranayama. And then you can actually create sounds with pursing your lips and running the air over your tongue, like a shushing sound. But what I've noticed in each of these types of sounds is that there is there's some difference in how it relates or connects into what I'm feeling in my body. I've gotten to a place now where I don't think about what sounds I'm making. The sounds kind of shift by themselves. And what I'm attempting to do in the Zoom sessions is to have you begin to explore and expand your range of all the different sounds that you can make. I mean, what I've been doing, I've been practicing using sound inside of these inside of the meditations that I do for, well, 25 years or more now. So I've been going through a wide range of sounds. So those are the sounds that you can make without vocalizing. Now, when you vocalize, again, you've got the different vowel sounds. But there's another aspect to that of these sounds where it can be vocalized, but you also allow the sounds to come through your lips. So the sound is actually coming out through your lips, but your lips begin to vibrate with that sound. It's very different when you make the oh, where the sound is only vocalized and not felt in the lips. But when you feel it in your lips, there becomes a relationship around your face. So I could feel the ooh in my torso, but I can also feel it. The vibration in the lips begin to move up and around my face. And again, this has a very different way of interacting with whatever sensations are going on in my body. So make sound as you do your Mahamudra. Try exploring the different ways that you can make sounds. Now let's see. So the next place to go with sound is totally internal. And sometimes this can be incredibly powerful because what I've found is that, externalizing the sound, making the sound external outside of yourself, even though you're creating it within you, it can be very powerful. But when you bring it in so that you hear the sound in your mind, and you can make it either an ohm, you can make it a mantra, you can make it whatever sound, but relate it to the sensation in your body. And you'll find that even though there's no external sound, even though there's nothing going on that, externally, that the sound in your mind, when you connect it to what you're feeling in your body, can have a profound effect on the sensation and on the movement of energy. So, sound. Yeah, I think I've probably covered enough with sound at this point. So let's move to breath. I covered this a little bit before, but I want to talk a little bit more about it.
The sound's just gone for a bit.
Oh, the sound went out? Oh, okay.
Oh, no, you're breaking up now.
Oh, great. Okay, can you hear me now? Hello? Damn. Okay. Can you hear me? Oops. Oh,
Hello?
hi.
You're back?
I am back finally. Yeah, I guess I got kicked off. Okay, so I'm going to stop my video because I don't have great internet here. But you can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, all right, great. All right. Wow, all right, technical glitches. So I want to talk about breath at this point. I believe I've said enough about sound, but I want to talk about breath because breath is another huge piece. Now, in yoga, they call it pranayama, and that it's about bringing energy into the body. Have you done any breath work before?
Not purposely, no.
Okay. Well, one of the things that will happen once you get more and more connected into Mahamudra and your inner guidance, and I don't know if you've experienced this yet, but your breath will begin to change depending on what wants to happen. You see, the thing about the body is always trying to heal itself, always trying to come into regulation. Because what happens is that due to developmental trauma, shock trauma, just basically living in this world, growing up in this world, that the body begins to dysregulate oftentimes at an early age. And we don't know how to make it regulate again. We just kind of get locked into this. And this has to do with the blocked the energetic blocks that we create in our body. And if you read the article that I sent you about that, about the energy model that I use, that these get stuck in your body and it blocks the movement energy moving through your body. And so trauma specialists call it dysregulation. And the body wants to re-regulate. It wants to come back into its full normal state being. So sometimes the way that can happen is through changes in the breath. But one of the things you can do around breath is to begin to explore a wider range of breath. And one of the ways of doing that is simply looking at how we breathe. So sit in a comfortable position and take a normal breath and notice how far down the breath goes, how much your belly extends or distends. And just breathe through your mouth. You know, just allow your mouth to be open. Breathe naturally. And notice if your chest rises or if most of the breathing occurs in the upper part of your body, or if it extends all the way down into your pelvis. Now, when we breathe, and it's a natural breath, what you'll notice is that your belly, your lower belly, will begin to extend out. And then if you take a full, complete breath, what will happen is, first of all, the belly will extend. Then as you continue breathing in, that expansion will begin to come up into your chest, your ribs, and then the very end, in a full, complete breath, is that your shoulders will rise slightly to expand the upper part of your rib cage. So let's just try a full, expanded, complete breath. So again, through the mouth, opening your belly, bringing it down all the way into your pelvis, then beginning to expand up, opening your chest cavity, expanding your back, and then finally expanding right around your shoulders. Get that last little bit of breath, and then again letting go, and then it should reverse all the way down to your pelvis, where the last part of the breath exhalation will occur down around the lower part of your belly. So that's a full expanded breath. Now, another way to begin to explore breath is through rapid breathing. Well, actually, before I go into rapid breathing, let's do another one. What they call, the rebirthers call this, and transform breathing also calls it this, which is a circular breath. So circular breath is one where the breath comes in, and without a stop, it turns around and loops back out. But again, the breath is going to go all the way down to your pelvis and then back out again through the breath, then back down into the pelvis. But there's no stopping anywhere in between. It's a very circular, looping kind of breath. Now, if you continue to do this looping kind of breath, the circular breath, as the rebirthers do often, and sometimes in transformed breathing, what will happen is you'll begin to notice a tingling occurring. Forget the term that they use for this, but the tingling will go to your fingers and hands, and they'll start cramping. What's happening is that the breath is charging up different parts of your body, and I wish I could remember the name of it. But this is not necessarily a helpful thing, because once you start coming into this tingling sensation, that's when you begin to need to discharge. And that's when you start creating sounds, you start expressing whatever needs to get expressed. But I just want you to understand that as you breathe in and you do the circular breath, and this jives with yoga when they talk about pranayama, that it's a way of charging your system. So at its very core, breath is a way of charging your system. And what you need to do when you begin to charge it up is at some point you need to discharge. And this occurs naturally within Mahamudra once you really tap into inner guidance. But it becomes this kind of charge-discharge cycle that occurs inside of Mahamudra. So is this all making sense?
Yeah, how would you discharge?
What was that again? Was that a question?
Yeah, how does the discharge happen?
Okay, the discharge is where you begin to connect sounds and you start expressing through your face. Face is the most expressive part of who we are. And so it's about authentic self-expression. So authentic self-expression occurs in a number of ways. It occurs through our hands, our legs, however we express in the world, through our face, through our facial expressions, through sounds, through energy, emotional energy going outward. So that emotional energy going outward can look like anger. So you may pound things with your fists. You may scream or yell. You may say, fuck you. I mean, this is kind of like an anger expression. Or you can cry. That is an expression of pain. Or you can shake in fear. Expression of fear. So it's emotional energy being expressed outward. But it can also be expressed through stories, through words, through, lesser sounds. I mean, it doesn't have to be a cathartic expression. But that's what discharge is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, what's not clear to me about Mahamudra is,
Mahamudra, you said?
yeah, all these expressions sound really complicated for something that you say needs to occur spontaneously, involuntarily.
Exactly. This is when you get really super connected, and you may be really connected. If you're experiencing things that are happening within your body, within your authentic self-expression, that are unexpected, that are not planned, that are like, oh, wow, that's interesting. What just happened? Kind of like you're surprised by what's occurring inside the Mahamudra. Is that your experience?
Yeah, and yeah, I have gone through some, like, a lot of expressions and movements, but for instance, using my face muscles never comes to me spontaneously, and you say it's a key part of it.
Well, what's going to happen is that, so this is all about authentic self-expression. The kind of transformation that I talk about, that I'm offering all these tools around transformation, is that transformation can occur in a lot of ways. But the kind of transformation that I'm talking about, that I'm using in this program, is what I call authentic self-expression. So in your truth, in your inner guidance, in whatever your body wants to do, however it wants to express, that's where the transformation is taking place. So if you don't think about using your face muscles, but I'm just going to put it out there that I would imagine that if someone was looking at your face while you were in Mahamudra, that there would be a lot of expression there,
Mm-hmm.
even if you're not thinking about it.
Okay.
So what I'm doing here is that everyone's going to have a different connection to Mahamudra, because Mahamudra is a practice that can take you years to master,
Mm-hmm.
but you can actually go there almost right away. It depends on your connection to inner guidance. depends on your connection to your body. It depends on how much you can surrender. See, a lot of people can't surrender, or it's very difficult for them to surrender and allow their body to take over. And what I found is it can sometimes be related to age, because we have a tendency to get more and more, as we age, we get more and more rigid in our patterns. And so Mahamudra is not at all about patterns, it's about breaking patterns. And so the reason that I'm doing these sessions is to support people in beginning to expand their range of expression. Because, maybe they don't have that range and they're not really even capable of that range, or maybe they don't even realize that there's a lot more range that they're capable of experiencing than they are. So these are all kinds of exercises that you can do separately from Mahamudra, or you could kind of play with it while you're in Mahamudra. But ultimately, Mahamudra is a place where it's about total surrender and totally letting the body take over. Because the body, as I said, wants to re-regulate. It wants to heal. It wants to expand and open up and achieve its peak potential. And we have no idea what that peak potential is. So part of this transformation is, a big part of it is around the body. Another big part is connecting to spirit, connecting to who we really are, connecting to the infinite consciousness that we are. And then the other part of this transformation process is the mind, because we have certain beliefs, certain voices, certain pictures that came that we essentially formed very early in childhood, and so it's about not being a slave to that particular set of beliefs or pictures that we get, the mindset that we all have. So I'm trying to address all of those while we're doing this. But in terms of Tantra is about breath, sound, and movement, which is why I'm focusing on these particular things right in this session. So, is there a question there? You have this look on your face.
No.
Okay, all right, great. So, let's see. So breath. The other kind of breath that happens spontaneously for me inside of Mahamudra is a breath that begins to quicken. And one of the things that you can do in terms of your face and your facial expression, and I'm going to go ahead and show my facial expression here so you can have a look at it, is that when I begin to do this breath, and it doesn't always happen, because sometimes it's just, but what will happen is that the sounds and the vowel sounds that are coming out will change as I'm moving my lips and my face and my facial expressions. So this is all a certain expression, but I found that a quick breath often relates to a fear clearing. So this is just something to play around with, to practice, in terms of breath and how it can be used to move certain types of feelings.
Does it really happen to you involuntarily?
Does it really happen to me inside of Mahamudra?
Yeah, involuntarily.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I
That
have.
that level of detail.
Well, I just
Mm.
notice it. I mean, it's not like I'm like sitting there. I mean, for me, what goes on when I'm in Mahamudra is that I'm getting a constant connection to, I don't know what you want to call it, but I call it connection to my genius zone, to my inner genius, to my inner guidance, to spirit. I mean, I actually don't know what I'm connected to. All I know is that I'm constantly receiving this experience of a future reality. And that future reality is giving me information on what I should do next in my business, or answer questions that I have need of answering, or showing me a future that is something that I want to create, but showing me in detail. So
And the
that's what's going
physical
on mentally.
and the physical expressions facilitate the emotional release, or what is the purpose of them?
Uh, Everything that's going on in your body, in my mind, is allowing the flow of energy. And what's occurring is as I told you before, there's energetic blocks in your body. And one of the things that Tantra and yoga believes is that, uh, have you ever heard the term Kriya? A Kriya is when your body kind of jolts or shakes. So oftentimes what will happen is when people begin to experience deeper levels of yoga or Tantra, that as they begin to move more energy in their body, that what they'll experience are what are called Kriyas, where the body will suddenly shake or jerk because that energy has hit a block. And when it hits the block, it releases some sort of, it breaks something up, and there's a sudden jolt in the body. But
Mhm.
that's a sign or an indication that there's now a new opening. Is this making sense?
Mhm.
So I believe that these energetic blocks are actually emotional blocks, and that we carry our stuck emotions in our body. And so when we're moving energy, I'm talking about moving emotional energy, it's the authentic self expression of fear, anger, and pain. And what I found as I've been doing Mahamudras for all these years is that it comes in layers. So sometimes I have tons and tons of fear. That's what from a baby, my father used to hit me when I cry. And I had this, I thought that I would die if I expressed myself. And so I have all this fear around expressing myself. And so there's all this fear in my body. So most of the time I'm expressing fear, but then every now and then there'll be a layer of anger. And then my teeth will show and a like kind of sensation, feeling. But that's the expression that comes out. And then other times I'll cry. There'll just be this deep release of pain.
Mhm.
And sometimes, I've had that. It doesn't happen so much anymore, but I've sometimes I've cried for hours at a time.
Mm.
So, so all of that begins to open up the channels that then begin to flow more energy. And as you flow more and more energy, you have more and more power to create. It's kind of like the universe is always giving you energy.
Mhm.
And then you take that energy, move it through your body, and then you express it out in the world through the things that you do, the things that you make, you produce, all of that, through your words, through your hands. So So this is the beauty and the power of Mahamudra is that as you move the energy, as you express it, you transform your body. You transform who you are. You transform so that your life around you reflects that transformation. And therefore, when you have transformed, you begin to attract, is the law of attraction on steroids, is that you begin to attract what it is you want. You know, it becomes your match.
Mm.
So that's why I feel like Mahamudra is like the bomb. I mean, it is the most powerful, meditation that I've ever discovered. So let's see, where was I? I think we're talking about breath, and I think that's enough about breath. I think the next piece that I want to talk about is movement, and I talked a little bit about it. Have you noticed movement in your body when you're in Mahamudra?
Quite a lot, yeah. A lot of shakes, a lot of spasms. Sometimes that curl up in spasms and kind of shake.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, great.
there's a bit of movement, yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, it sounds like you're doing great with Mahamudra.
Mhm.
And I would just suggest that you just continue doing what you're doing. You know, you don't have to. I mean, all of this stuff is practice and it's exploration. But if you're that connected that your body is just like going off on its own, that's awesome. What I will tell you is that, and I was just saying, you know, the spasms that you're finding, that's where the energy is hitting blocks, and then your
Yep.
body just, does things, and it's
Mhm.
weird. I mean, I whenever I'm with uh, like girlfriends, but before they know me,
Mhm.
and then I will, you know, kind of because when I feel safe enough with someone, I allow myself to. Because when I'm with a woman, I can feel them, and if there's any sexual energy that starts coming up, that is even more energy coming into my system. And at some point, it's almost like I have to move energy, and I'll start kind of like I can stop myself, I can keep control, but there's this desire to let go and to surrender, and so I'll start going off, and she'll give me this look like, "What the fuck?" So I have to kind of be careful sometimes of that, um, but it's that energy coming in and hitting blocks and opening things up. So what I've noticed, though, in terms of movement, is that uh, one of the things that I'm noticing when I'm not, really going off a lot, which is usually the fear stuff that gets charged or activated. What I find is that I will begin to move in spirals. So this kind of a circular movement. So you can kind of play around, play with this if you like. But what I find is that if I'm lying or sitting, that my hips, my pelvis will begin to move in a circle. But then my spine will begin to follow that. But the spine will also move in circles, but it will be delayed. And so, in other words, what's occurring is the spine is kind of going into this spiral movement. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. And I discovered this a long time ago. I used to live in Hawaii on the Big Island, and I would go practice Mahamudra uh, on the beach. I'd find this big rock, I'd get on it, and then I'd start going into Mahamudra. I'd be standing there and doing whatever I was doing, just feeling, being, and allowing my body to take over. And what happened was really interesting. I began to spontaneously move my hips. in a circular fashion. And then my hands would do these mudras, where they wanted to go. And then what was really interesting is I started to speak in tongues, but it sounded Hawaiian. And then one of the things to understand about Hawaii is that each island has a very different energy, and each island represents a different chakra. I happen to be on the big island, which is the root chakra. But the island of the heart chakra is Molokai. And Molokai is where magic originated. That's where Huna originated. But and the kahunas, that's where the kahunas came from, was Molokai. And what is interesting is the hula originated on Molokai. And I realized that the hula is actually a power dance. It's a magic dance. It's a dance, just much like the rain dance, that the Indians used to do and stuff, is that the power is in the hips. It's that sexual power. And that movement of that energy that's the power to make things change, to transform things. And then, all right. Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, anyway, hand gestures, mudras, they were to manipulate behind the scenes, in another dimension. And that the sounds also carried power.
So you might have stopped there. So you're talking about the Magic Island. Did you say anything else about that?
Oh, that's where hula originated.
Mm-hmm.
And that hula is a magic dance, a power dance. And
Mm-hmm.
the hips relate to the power, generating power. The hand gestures, if you ever watch hula, they have all these little different gestures that they actually don't just mean certain things, but they originally connected interdimensionally, and use the power from the hips to make changes in the world. And that the sounds, the chants, were also added to that power for change. So that was kind of like the beginning of my journey around sound and the power of sound, along with the hips and everything else. But that's one of the movements that you can practice is the hips and the spine becoming the spiral. The spiral is something that you find in nature everywhere, and so it's a very natural movement. Okay, let me just check. The last thing that since we've only got a few minutes left, the last thing that I want to cover is what I call the Cobra Breath. Now, the Cobra Breath is a very specific kind of meditation. And it includes several things. It includes root locks, movements that lock certain parts of your body, visualization, the movement of energy, and breath, and to some degree sound. So the Cobra Breath is about taking energy from your root chakra, bringing it up your spine, passing it through your brain. So it's coming in at the base of your skull, coming across to your third eye, then coming out of your third eye, running across your head, coming back down in through the same place at the base of the spine, or base of the skull, with a particular sound, and then allowing that to come down, going through your central channel. Okay, and actually the movement up is also through your central channel. It's not in your spine. The central channel includes your spine, but it's actually a little bit in front of the spine. Okay, so I'm going to explain it one more time. What you're going to do is you're going to squeeze your perineum, and as you squeeze it, it's a root lock. You're going to breathe through your nose and visualize this red energy coming up through, well, it's actually just in front of your spine, coming up, and then coming up to the base of the back of the skull, and then coming across through the pituitary and pineal glands, coming out, and as it comes out of here, it turns to a blue-green color, comes out of your third eye, and then runs across blue-green color, across the top of your head, then comes back through, and then you're going to, it's a smile, an inner smile that allows that movement down again and comes down to your root lock, or down to your root. So the root lock only occurs as you're breathing up. Bringing it up, and then letting go of the root lock, and then allowing that breath out through here, and then as it comes across, letting that breath come out, coming down again. Then root lock one more time. So you're letting go of the root lock as soon as you breathe out. Root lock once more, visualizing the energy, the red energy coming up, going across the brain, letting it out, across the top of the head, coming back down through that space right at the back of the skull, coming in and then going back down, a blue-green color. And then one more time. One more thing that I forgot. I haven't done this breath in a long time, but I used to do this all the time, like every day. One thing that I forgot is that when you're breathing up, what you want to do is you want to have the tip of your tongue right near the back of your palate. It's your upper palate, or the palate bone, right near the back of it. And as you're breathing up, it's coming right through the tip of your tongue, going through into your brain, and then coming out. And then coming back, so you can let go of the tongue and the root lock when you let the breath go. Any questions about any of this? It's kind of a complicated breath.
What are the longer term effects of that? What's the purpose of this?
It's basically to open your third eye. That's the big one. It's to connect you more. Also integrate your chakras, but basically it's to open your third eye. That's the big piece to it.
So you're channeling energy through the brain. That's the main.
Yeah, there are two glands that are like master glands in the body. There's the pituitary gland and the pineal gland, and they're both situated, one is situated like almost mid brain, and so the energy is going through both the pituitary and the pineal. The pineal is closer to the front, and then coming out the third eye, and then going across, coming back down through the back of the of that area just at the base of the brain.
And the lock, is that the PC muscle that you squeeze?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I've read something similar with Montauk Chia.
Well, there's a whole bunch of meditations you can do with the locks. I mean, there's the root lock, but there's also the neck lock, which is another one. But yeah, I mean, when you start getting into energy work, there are a ton of things that you can do. So I'm just giving you some of the smaller pieces right now. But Cobra Breath is a very powerful breath. So I wanted to offer that as well. What I'm doing with this particular program, I'm going to be offering this program for $497 in January. So you're getting a great deal. But what I want from you in return, and from everyone in the program, is I want to get real feedback. Real feedback about Mahamudra, about the sound files, if you've been using the sound recordings, you know, what you feel, what's going on, the Cobra Breath, what kind of results you're getting. So, you know, I want feedback, real honest feedback. I don't need you to tell me, oh, this is all great, but I want to know what's really going on. But I feel like what I'm offering are my most powerful tools for transformation. And I think that that's ultimately what people want, no matter what, you know, whatever thing that they're after. You know, whether it's money, a business, becoming an opera singer, I mean, you know, whatever it is they want. All right?
Okay. How do you want your feedback? Via
Facebook. The Facebook group.
Publicly or privately?
Public is fine. I mean,
Okay.
I don't, you know, I mean, I know that this stuff has worked for me and for other people, but if it's feedback that is like, well, you should do this a little differently, or maybe, you know, your Zoom classes should be a little bit more tighter, or, I mean, you know, whatever honest feedback you have, that's great. I'll take it as feedback and I'll use it to improve the program. But I feel like what I'm offering here has value, and I think you recognize that as well.
It does. It does. I mean, obviously, you're working on presentation skills and all that. So, like, I don't want to go
exactly.
too much into that. Yeah, but I just want to give. I will give ongoing experience that I see.
Yeah, and if there's something within these presentations that you feel I could do better, feel free to, you know, let me know. Because, yeah, I want to give the best incredible, you know, the most incredible package possible at $495 or $497, whatever the price is. Something that will actually change people's lives at a relatively low cost. And then if they want more hand-holding, then, you know, I can do more private work with them and charge more. But for people like you, I mean, this is like, I think, perfect, because you just like take the bull by the horns and you're off to the races.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you have this kind of, already have this deep connection. And so it makes it so much easier, you know, to give you these tools and things. And there are some more things that I'm going to be offering as well. So stay tuned, because I have a lot of stuff that I have recorded that I'm just going to give you the link to.
You've been busy.
I have. I've been busy for many years. All right. Hey, thanks a lot for being on this call, because it makes it so much easier for me when, you know, someone is there that I can actually connect with.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you again. Appreciate it. This
All
is
right.
very timely as well. Thank you.
All right. Perfect. All right. Hey, have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Cheers.